Welcome to Gate City Insider. I'm Rosemary Plybon. You know the history. It was 1781. The Revolutionary War continued, and General Nathanael Greene stood to defend Guilford Courthouse from the British attack. Well, the battle was fierce, said to be one of the largest and most brutal of the whole war. Lord Charles Cornwallis secured a slim victory, only to surrender a few months later to General George Washington at Yorktown. The Battle of Guilford Courthouse was a turning point in the war. And this is sacred ground. Guilford Courthouse National Military Park is a place for reflection and also for recreation. Continue walking the trails past the park, of course, the national park. You'll find yourself on a lake with ducks, paddle boats. You'll also see children. You'll hear them laughing and sliding, and tennis matches going on, baseball games, football games. I mean, there's a lot going on. Even further, keep walking and you run into the Science Center with the animals. So Chris Wilson knows all about it, Assistant City Manager and just kind of master of parks, I like to think. Yeah, King of Parks, is that?
Yeah, that's actually how we
you like to be known?
To me in most meetings as Master of Parks and all things, yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit of history about you and your, with the parks.
Ooh.
I mean, you grew up here, so you enjoyed hanging out at the parks.
I was technically born in Greensboro because I grew up in Asheboro, and the hospital here was where most
babies
kids,
are born.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. So, born in Greensboro, grew up in Asheboro, but moved here as a teenager. Just so much exposure to the outdoors and sports. I was a fairly good athlete, but really loved the outdoors. Had lots of experiences as a child with Parks and Recreation, just, absolutely connected to that service, and ended up working for the city of Greensboro when I was a teenager. I started teaching tennis and working on tennis courts, and ended up working in multiple roles, maintenance, administration, athletics, over the years, and really got into the city of Greensboro as an organization and ended up being the director of Parks and Recreation at one point, and then ultimately moving into the manager's office and brought that perspective with me, which was great.
And so, of course, Country Park has long been a central park in Greensboro, and a well-loved park. I mean, playgrounds surround it, the lake, the paddle boats, and so we've kind of slowly been building some things back. We've seen some new things kind of coming in around there.
Yeah, I think, at least in my experience in the community, many people just know Country Park from their childhood.
Right.
They went to feed the geese, which I don't encourage doing. It's actually not a good thing. But they know Country Park. They know the Science Center, back from the little petting zoo and the buffalo that was there and all the cool things around Country Park. That was actually Greensboro's first large park. There were neighborhood parks prior to that, but it was their first large park. And since that time of 1934, Country Park has just been loved to death. We now see over 800,000 visits a year at Country Park, which is phenomenal. And Country Park has evolved. The services have evolved. Some of the things that you see there have evolved. You now have a dog park and a veterans memorial, and you have pedal boats that look like swans.
And dragons.
And dragons and all sorts of things. So it has evolved, but there's still some elements there that remind us of our childhood, still things that you see there that you recall fondly. And we kind of refer to it as the Central Park of Greensboro because it is somewhat centrally located, but it is also sort of that mainstay of Greensboro that everybody remembers. So it's so appropriate that today we're looking at that as the central nucleus of what will be the Battleground Parks District.
Exactly, and so this is really a master plan for how this park, and when we talk about park, we're talking about Country Park, we're talking about the National Guilford Courthouse Park, we're talking about the Science Center, we're talking about J.C. Park and all the fields. All of that is part of a master plan. It
is part of a master plan. So a little context, I would say it's probably been the better part of 10 years. My counterpart at the county and I were actually standing on the hill between the Science Center and Country Park talking about some of the needed improvements, and he informed me at that time that the facilities, Country Park, Science Center, the National Military Park, JC, were all part of one contiguous piece of land at one point, and there was actually a physical connection that you could drive through. So Country Park used to have a boathouse, and somewhere therein was a drive-in theater and all kinds of interesting things. And he said, you know, it really would make sense if all this was connected again, because so many good things are happening. And I recall saying, I really have, you know, not just thought of that before. I said, but, you know, while we're talking about it, all these things kind of work together too. I mean, there's like a full experience that can happen here. And he encouraged me to go talk to your next guest, Glenn Dobrigos, over at the Science Center. And we, of course, immediately hit it off. Glenn is visionary in his thinking, is taking the Science Center far beyond anything we ever expected. Met a good friend at the National Military Park at that time, was a superintendent. We started having discussions about how this could all work. And the vision culminated into, think about a day of recreation science education. What is it that, you know, when you take your kids somewhere, what do you want to do? Do you want to picnic? Do you want to go to the museum? Do you want to go to a zoo? Do you want to get on the trail? Do you want to see water? Do you want to see wildlife? What is it you want to see? You want to learn.
Right.
Well, what if you could do that in one location? We have 400 acres that offers all that. So on one end, you've got a science center that is now a top 12 tourist attraction and continuing to go up. Expanding the zoo, modernizing the museum, becoming a real draw to Greensboro. Past that is the largest carousel in North Carolina. And then down the hill, we're getting ready to start phase 1 of BPD, which is what we call Battleground Parks District.
Yeah.
So we're starting that phase. That will be filled with art, performance space, perhaps treetop adventures, water features. We are visioning for something so grand that we're taking that experience that you'd want with any outing with your kids or whoever, and we're going to take it to the top level.
Let's look at some pictures, because first I think we have kind of a rendering. We can kind of explain where you're talking about first. So this is, you can, if you want to orient yourself a little bit, that parking lot is the lower part that's on the lower part of the screen, is the lower parking lot at the Science Center, and the circle is the carousel.
That's the carousel, right.
So then looking down, what are we seeing here?
So we will all know, if you're local, you will know that there's a hill right there.
Right.
And when you look at that hill right there, there's nothing. That's going to be filled. That's a grand connector between the Science Center and Country Park. So the idea is there should be no separation between facilities. They should all be connected. And we want your experience beyond the Science Center and beyond the carousel to be just as rewarding as what you received on your way down.
Right.
So this will be filled with all sorts of great activities, which could include water features. And as I mentioned, maybe you're up in the trees. But you know what you're looking at? So if you stand on that hill, what do you see? You look down the hill and you see this great lake.
Right, the water.
And one of the things that we've found from our residents is everybody loves looking at that lake. So we're going to enhance that space, and we're going to create a performance space that if you're on that hill, while you're participating and enjoying all the great things there are to have, you can also look down the hill and see wonderful things occurring. So it could be that you see a performance going on, a concert. And behind that is the crazy pedal boats that we talked about, which will continue to get crazier and crazier. This experience is going to be everything that you would want to do in any one destination. And it doesn't stop there. It goes past the lake and it goes into the other parks. And on the other side of Battleground Parks District, we're talking about taking the tennis center that's just been refurbished, by the way. So you've got 13 courts right now. We're talking about another 12 courts, making us the largest clay court facility in the Southeast.
Because it's busy all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time,
all the time.
But that experience just continues to grow and grow, and we get more and more partners that want to be part of this 400 acres of destination. And if you think about where that's situated, the urban loop comes out right there. The A&Y Greenway from one end of Greensboro to the other comes out right there. So this is totally accessible. Anyone can get to it. If you're driving in from out of town, it'll be an easy destination. But literally, when I think about when my kids were small and all the things I drove them to go participate in, I would go miles and miles and miles away to participate in one of these things. this is going to be a destination with all of these things in one location, which we think is just phenomenal.
And of course, not just for kids and families,
No,
but for
anybody.
all ages are going to be able to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Walks around the lake, I mean, which people
I'm
already
thinking
enjoy, are
about
just
moving
going
my
to be
office there.
enhanced.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right. We talked about partners. So how do you make it possible? I mean, how is this being funded? How is it happening?
Sure. Well, so first and foremost, let me talk about the partnership between the City of Greensboro and the Science Center. So the City of Greensboro actually owns that property, and we work with a nonprofit at the Science Center that is headed by Glenn Dovergos, who again is just a tremendous asset, along with his board and his staff. They have created just a phenomenal product, and that product would not have been possible had it not been a public-private relationship. So there are city dollars or tax dollars invested in that facility, certainly. There are bond dollars associated with some of the growth, but Glenn and his staff have also worked very hard to raise a lot of private dollars to give you the product you see today. So all the unique collections that are there and the wildlife that you see that you won't see in really any other facility in that exact collection, a lot of that has happened as a result of generosity and partnerships with other entities who really believe in this product. That stretches into the whole Battleground Parks District plan. We have a great partner at the tennis facility. That's a public-private relationship. I can say, without naming names, that we have multiple people knocking on our door right now asking how they can participate in this overall plan. We're working with the federal government. I mean, I don't know another destination in the country where you have the federal government, county government, city government, a nonprofit, all working together in one facility.
And working well?
Working very well.
And
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to work with me? I'm a nice guy. So, yeah,
you are a nice guy. Right. You are a nice guy.
Most of the time, sure.
I have a couple more pictures I want to show. If we could show the pictures of the entrance on Lawndale.
Okay,
I think these are really cool to see.
Right.
And there's one during the day and one at night. I don't think we've seen those yet. But again, so even as you drive up, it's going to be an amazing experience. Or drive by, I should say.
Well, so you've got a corridor there on Lawndale Avenue that obviously lends itself to a experience before you even get to the facility. So think about many of the places that you might go that are destinations. There's usually signage or there's some inkling. In Glenn's vision and in many of the iterations of what they're working on, the discussion has been, well, you really should see something equally as grand as you enter upon the facility. He is going to talk about the introduction of art as part of that. This community loves arts and culture.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we just finished a year-long study and plan for the City of Greensboro called the Arts Master Plan, and the culmination of that is really infusing arts into most of what we do. And science is no different.
Right.
Science and education is no different. They should actually be mirrored, and Glenn will talk a little bit about that. But as you drive down Lawndale, we see that experience as being important. So it'll be adorned with art that is striking. Nothing you will see anywhere else in Greensboro. The whole idea of this plan is to be different and unique. There are some things that we all love to do.
Right.
Whether it be recreation, science, education, history. But that experience can be enhanced and be unique in a Greensboro way, and that is our goal. Greensboro is different. Greensboro is one of the best places to live. It's a community of choice.
It's the best. We'll just go there. We can
let's
say
just
that.
call it the best.
Yes.
I truly believe
I believe it too.
We choose to be here, right? We have some of the most talented people in the world working with some of the best assets in the world. And when you get those two things together, you get a phenomenal experience. And that's what we're working on here.
Well, it's going to be history meets nature, meets education, meets art, meets recreation, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to hear a little bit more about, of course, Chris mentioned, we're going to talk to Glenn Dovergos right after this quick break. Welcome back to Gate City Insider. I'm Rosemary Plybon. We are talking about the Battleground Parks District today and the connection of the Guilford Courthouse National Military Park, Country Park, J.C. Park, and Spencer Love Tennis to the Greensboro Science Center. So we're talking history, nature, science, learning, recreation, fun. you name it, it's going to be in the Battleground Parks District. And of course, you heard Chris Wilson talk a lot about Glenn Dobergos. He's the CEO of the Greensboro Science Center. He is with us now. Hi, welcome.
How you doing?
I am doing great. Okay,
Great.
let's talk about the Science Center, because it started in 1957,
Yes.
the Junior League of Greensboro, and it was called the Greensboro Junior Museum.
Correct. And it was only like 2,000 square feet. It was very small. Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
so for a while, it kind of didn't change a whole lot, but then recently we've seen change after change after change.
It's now, I think, 100,000 square feet indoors and another 25 acres outdoors. So it's becoming quite the destination.
So
for
we're
sure.
talking yes, museum, zoo, aquarium, all wrapped into one. And now really entertainment venue too, because we're adding the carousel.
Right. That was the premise of our master plan back in 2006, which at first people were like, can Greensboro pull this off?
Right.
But then you introduce the idea of a museum, a zoo, aquarium, all in one campus, one destination, a one-stop shop for science. And all of a sudden people started thinking, okay, maybe this is a good idea because no one else in North Carolina is doing it. But the easy part was aquarium. You say first inland aquarium in North Carolina in Greensboro, ticket. That's really did it, really, for us.
And that's been amazing. I mean, it's the success has skyrocketed.
Well, when we opened Animal Discovery, we doubled our attendance. When we opened the aquarium, we doubled it again. So it really has been a huge performer for us, to say the least. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're talking about adding on again. And this has been, people have heard about some of this, the zoo expansion particularly. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, we opened the original zoo in 2008, Animal Discovery, and it did well for us. But keep in mind, when I got here in Greensboro, the community said, Glenn, you have $5 million to build a zoo. Well, in the real world of zoos and aquariums, $5 million might build one exhibit. And we had to build an entire facility accreditable by the AZA. That was hard, but we did it and it worked. Now we're building an expansion and we have about $12 to $13 million. So it's going to be same amount of space, that much more rich, robust, enriching for the visitors. And it's going to be called Revolution Ridge. And again, it ties back to the whole Battleground Parks District concept. Imagine that space where we're looking to expand, which is down from our Gibbon exhibit, that wooded area with an old pond down below. That we have found musket balls, we have found artifacts from the war. So we're thinking, okay, that makes a lot of sense. A skirmish maybe of the war took place there, but at the same time, we want to tell a story in a different kind of way. So what do we get out of the Revolutionary War? The single most important thing in life, freedom. And we're building a zoological park, and our goal is to talk about all these endangered species, all these animals around the globe, that all they want is one thing.
Freedom.
To be left alone. And so every species we're bringing in is part of a breeding program called SSP, where their offspring will be that genetic arc that maybe someday, if things change, they can be populated back in their native land. So that's kind of the goal behind it. But you're also going to see incredibly unique animals that have never been in North Carolina before, like cassowary and pygmy hippo and okapi and red pandas and just all kinds of cool things. And we're also building a state-of-the-art $3.1 million veterinary center and conservation center all in one, that visitors can go in, they can see everything taking place live in real time.
So it sounds like it's almost going to double the size of the zoo area.
It's going to completely double it,
Yeah.
yes. Maybe slightly larger than the original zoo, yes.
And that's just part of it, because you're also kind of building out the other way too. Talk about that, and we'll show some pictures as you do.
Well, we're also doing a new tiger breeding center. We're also doing a treehouse complex. We're doing a front entrance. We're doing a STEM center called Sail, Carousel. There's so many projects going on right now. It's a little bit, see the eye twitch going on right here? It's just, there's so much going on, but at the same time, we're blessed because who would have imagined this 15 years ago? Now, here's our new front entrance complex. Imagine, right now, one of the most embarrassing parts of the Science Center is our front entrance, because it's 5 architectural styles smashed together over 50 plus years. We want to unify that. So this is a part of our Gateway project, which is our next phase, which we'll be unveiling to the community here very shortly. This just shows a unified front entrance with art and light. And one thing we know for sure is that we pack our parking lots during the day, but they're wide open at night. So we want to become more of a nighttime facility with our science cafes and nighttime activities. And so that kind of depicts that. Now the sky may not be that beautiful, but through our new telescopes and our Omnisphere Theater, we can actually show things like that are in real time as well.
I don't know, I think in Greensboro, the sky is always that beautiful, right?
Well, it's beautiful a lot, that's for sure, but that was pretty intense.
Okay, so there's also butterflies, right?
Yes, the Colt Family Butterfly House and Monarch Conservation Center. That's going to be stunning. Imagine, it's a seasonal exhibit because obviously butterflies around this time of year aren't common in wintertime. But the parks system of Greensboro has agreed, and we're building a greenhouse. That greenhouse is going to propagate gazillions of plants, and that's going to be milkweed, the #1 food of the monarch. Imagine every park in Greensboro now filled with milkweed, bringing monarch populations back to our community. And this is just one example. People can experience that, learn about that, but it's part of a bigger conservation project of bringing these iconic butterflies and higher populations back to Greensboro.
You mentioned tree houses, and I think we have a photo we can kind of show what
good.
might kind of look like.
Absolutely. This is the company that built it, absolutely. Thanks to Kiwanis and some other donors. Imagine now, we have Sky Wild, which is good for 8 and up. This is good for 8 and under, and their parents and their grandparents.
And people who don't want to fly through the air.
Well, exactly, a little bit nervous about that. This picture actually, though, is of the Komodo dragon exhibit. This exhibit is about to start construction. We have the inside exhibit already completed. This brings the Komodos outdoors.
Right, so it'll be connected?
It'll be connected, exactly. So, and once we build this, our male Komodo, Drogo, gets a girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And so it starts that whole process of, again, an SSP breeding program at the Science Center for this rare dragon.
Isn't that cool? We love the Komodo dragon. He's a favorite
He
already.
is a huge favorite. He is so cool.
He's a ham.
He is a ham, but wait till he has a girlfriend. It's gonna be a whole new world.
That'll be interesting.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, I think we do have a picture of those tree houses, so we'll put that up in a minute so you can see what we're talking about with that. Sure. But not only that, an amphitheater too?
An amphitheater outside overlooking the lakes. So during the daytime, we can use it for educational programs, and we've even had things like UNCG's Jazz Club come out and do performances based on animal movements. That kind of stuff can be part of the day, but at nighttime, imagine using this amphitheater at night with a lake behind you and with musicians and artists of all kinds. That's just going to be a cool venue. It's not going to be huge, about 300 people, but very intimate, unique concerts. And notice up on the left there, you see some people elevated. We're even considering building tree houses, kind of VIP tree houses that overlook everything right there as well. Yeah, that'd be super cool. And speaking of tree houses, so this is the company that we've hired. We have a contract now. This is in Gatlinburg, I believe. But imagine now these elevated tree houses in our forest just adjacent to our gibbon exhibit. And you'll be kind of in the trees with the gibbons, which is kind of cool. Not with them, but close to them. And it's going to be themed on a science exploration zone in the sky for the kids, and there's 5 dinosaurs that we haven't used yet from our dinosaur exhibit that are actually positioned all around. So imagine you're inside one of these houses and you look out the window, whatever, there's a dinosaur staring at you. And on top of that, when you'll be able to point your cell phone at these dinosaurs, they'll come to life through augmented reality. So that's another thing we're working on is augmented reality technology. So all over the Science Center, you'll be able to point at certain icons and they come to life right before your eyes.
Oh, that's so much fun. I mean, everybody's got them in their pocket, so you might as well
Everybody
use
carries them now, so use that evil for good.
Yes.
I'm just kidding, you know.
So Chris talks a lot about art and incorporating art and science together, and that's a big vision of yours as well.
Well, I almost went to art school out of high school. So for me, it's been a part of my life. But at the same time, you always see science classes taught science, art classes teaching art. The two are inseparable. If you ask a kid, are you into art? A lot of them will say no. Do you like music? I love music. Right. So we just teach it the wrong way. I want to bring those back together. We want to show art and shape and form and color and the science behind that. A musical instrument is a delicate thing that's been created through science and sound and construction and engineering to create these great artworks. So the two need to come back together. But at the Science Center, we use a lot of video, we use a lot of color, we use a lot of paint. But at the same time, we don't have much sculpture. We want to bring sculpture that tells that story of science and conservation, but at the same time, through that augmented reality, you'll be able to point at these sculptures, and the artist or the sculpture itself could tell its own story, talking about the integration of the arts and sciences. So those are just some examples, but so I see us doing a lot of art, but integrated into, I think we have pictures on today to show you, but every portal into our new exhibit realms will be iconic art displays that tell a story as you enter into these experiences. So we're going to incorporate the two in unique ways that I don't think any museum is doing in North Carolina right now. Well,
and you're doing all this thanks to a lot of partners. You've talked a little bit about it. Obviously, there was a bond referendum almost 10 years ago that's helped to get some of this started, but really tons of private donations and individuals, foundations, companies who just have shown an interest.
We feel blessed.
How does that happen? I mean, why do you think that is here?
We feel blessed. We've been able to actually match the bond dollars from 2009, dollar for dollar private support. So that we feel really proud about that. Well, about 80, if we did a campaign, our Think Big campaign, 80% of the people that actually physically came out to the Science Center for behind-the-scenes tour with our staff were donors. That's huge because they got to see it, they got to meet our staff, meet our board, they got to live and breathe it. And that's really important. They see that what we're doing is serious business for tourism, for science, and they want to invest in that. Greensboro is an amazing place to live, but we need more iconic places to go and do things. I think that'll draw more industry back. I think having a place like the Science Center and now BPD is just huge for this community because it's unique. You hear a lot about Charlotte envy and Raleigh envy. It's time they have envy for us because
Right.
this BPD project is going to be that unique and special.
It really is going to be like
Yeah.
nothing you've seen in North Carolina,
It really is.
or maybe outside.
It truly is a Central Park of North Carolina feel.
And so why do you think it has worked here? I mean, why do you think people have been so drawn to this? I mean, the Science Center expansion and growth is really a testament to community involvement and wanting to see change and good things happen here.
I think we have a strong vision. We have an amazing innovation committee at the Science Center. There's 9 of us that sit on it, and we throw ideas on the table. I mean, 90% of them get thrown out, but that 10% that sticks is pretty powerful. And what we do is we try to vision not based on what other facilities are doing around the country, what is true to Greensboro. What will Greensboro citizens want? What makes us unique? What makes us special? And then people say, oh, we're investing in our community and we're doing things that make sense for our citizens. People are drawn to that. And so far it has really worked. And, but the beauty of it is, between what we're about to build now, between BPD and the Science Center, about $18 million expansion over the next 2 years, we're envisioning a gateway project that's going to be even more special. It brings the art and sciences together, and it is going to be something that will be transformational. And I can't wait to unveil it in about a month to the community.
Okay, we
Yeah.
are really excited. We will be on it. We can't wait to
Good.
hear about it. We'll
Look forward to
be
it.
telling everybody about it. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
all you do in our community. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit with us today.
Enjoyed it very
We'll
much.
have you back. Of course, stay tuned. We will keep you up to date with all the fun things happening over at the Battleground Parks District. But better yet, go visit yourself. Take a walk around the lake, stroll through the monuments at the National Battlefield at the Guilford Courthouse, check out the exhibits and all the outdoor and indoor things to do at the Greensboro Science Center. See a game over at JC Park. You just can't lose if you head over to the Battleground Parks District. Thanks so much for joining us for Gate City Insider. We'll see you next time.